define it for the kids in this class, what would you say?
America for Americans.
Oh, no, that's nativism, dear Courtney. Manifest destiny. How would you distinguish that? Dear Amolya.
Maybe sustaining land from the
Ah, so you are saying, it's well to applaud young Amolya. So you are saying to me, dear Amolya, that manifest destiny was this notion that American institutions, values, traditions, cultural ideology was superior to all others, and it was destined that that would spread from Atlantic to Pacific. I mean, it was destined, it was God ordained, everybody else get out of the way. That's manifest destiny. And, you know, I mean, chapter 18 kind of talks about this in connection with American expansion. And we talked about it most in sort of regards to Mexico and Texas. However, there is a question or two about something called the Aroostook War, right? The Aroostook War. And that was conflicts that America got into in the 1840s with Canada, which was Britain. Oh, incidentally, of all those conflicts, and if you can envision in your minds a map of the United States, and envision Canada, which is to the north of the United States. So can you picture it in your mind? There is the Canadian border there along. In the 1840s, we solidify this border with Canada, right? We solidify the border. We completed the border with Canada. And the Aroostook War resolves the easternmost part of the border, Maine. The westernmost part of the border involved Oregon. Now, tell me about Oregon. What was the dispute between Canada, which was Britain, and the United States over the Oregon territory? Jason, a student of physics who often does that in an advanced placement history session. But in your recollection, Jason, what was the dispute between Canada and the United States? Canada, which is Britain, and the United States over the Oregon territory.
Well, first of all, I don't take physics.
Oh, you do not? What were you working on? Chemistry?
No, it was this summer workshop thing.
That's even worse yet. That's even worse yet. Go ahead.
Anyways,
Is it the governor's school, Jason?
No.
No, go ahead.
They both occupied Oregon first.
So you are saying to me that the Oregon territory was vast.
Yes.
It was vast, and it had been previously. Yes, very nice. It had been previously occupied by the Russians, by the Spanish, by the British, and the Americans. The Russians and the Spanish pulled out. The British and the Americans occupied that territory, but there weren't too many of either there, were there? And they could not agree upon a border between the territories. Oh, incidentally, Ahmed, the first border that was proposed was what parallel? No.
Oh.
No. 49th. I'm sorry, you Kelly, you were on the road to it. But the first border that was originally proposed to divide the territory was the 49th. Do you remember who rejected that?
Right.
Britain rejected it. They said, we don't want to divide it into 49th. So rather than fight them over the 49th, what did we say? We would jointly occupy the Oregon territory. You go there, we'll go there, we'll worry about it later. Now, when is the later? What happens to sort of catapult okay, now we're worried about it. We don't want the 49th. Now we want the whole thing, Kelly. We want 54-40 or fight. What happens to bring that issue to a head? Anybody besides the instructor? Go ahead, Felix.
Well, expansion in the U.S. and more people go into Oregon.
More people go there. Now, Brooke, when they go there, where do they generally settle? We did not say this in class, but you will see it in your book, and Brooke will properly pronounce the area where they went. The Willamette, how do you say it? The Willamette Valley, I always call it the Willamette, but the Willamette Valley, right, is where they went in significant numbers. And when they got there and they settled there, Americans, caught up with the notion of manifest destiny, demanded that the entire Oregon territory be sort of part of the United States, and that was 54-40 or fight. Now, right? The issue of Oregon blends into the issue of Texas and the annexation of Texas in the 44 election. Now remember, In 40, Harrison had been elected to the presidency. Harrison
Mr. Reed, please call 5741. Mr. Reed, 5741.
Harrison was a Whig. His vice president was John Tyler, who also was a Whig. But Tyler's Whiggery had more to do with not liking Jackson than it did the sort of political ideology of the Whigs. Remember, the Whigs' political ideology was at least loosely connected to the National Republicans, that was loosely connected to the Federalists. And so Henry Clay and Daniel Webster, who were the big Whigs, get it, the big Whigs, tended to support the American system. Tyler, who was a Whig because he hated Jackson, didn't. So when Harrison, who was, a Whig, was elected, and died a month after he was in office, Tyler, who took over, really does not pursue the Whig agenda, to the frustration of Clay and Webster and others. And Tyler, in fact, seeks to make an issue of expansion rather than the American system. And so this sets the stage for the 44 election, where remember we said Clay and Van Buren want to argue the election over the American system or laissez-faire, but Tyler, in pushing for the annexation of Texas and Oregon emerging as an issue, what becomes the more prominent issue in the election of 44 is expansion. Now, Tyler doesn't get the Democratic...
Anna or Carol, please call 5741. Anna or Carol, 5741.
Tyler doesn't get the Democratic nomination for the presidency, nor does he get the Whig nomination. The Democrats nominate Polk, James K. Polk. And Polk is an unashamed, unabashed supporter of expansion. He wants to annex Texas. And even though when we were having class we went back and kind of talked about, Texas and Sam Houston and the Alamo, there are no questions on the test about that. I mean, the test starts with Texas sort of being a state, I shouldn't say a state, a nation. It's an independent nation seeking annexation. So when we pick up Texas, it's there. It's there, ready, and Polk wants to annex it, right? And that becomes the issue, right? And Polk also says he wants to take all of Oregon. Clay is the Whig nominee, and Clay tries to direct the election towards the American system, but is forced to sort of address expansion. When it's said and done, Polk wins the election, and when he takes over, remember we said that Polk was a Jacksonian Democrat, takes over the presidency, very committed guy, has this agenda that he wants to pursue. He wants to lower tariffs, establish an independent treasury, resolve the Oregon question. Oh, incidentally, how was the Oregon question finally resolved? What was the final resolution made?
Popular sovereignty?
No. Whoa, maybe this is a down day for you, my dear friend. Non-popular sovereignty in, yes, go ahead. At the 49th parallel. They split Oregon at the 49th parallel. Now, Texas is not an issue, right? Because Texas is going to be annexed prior to Polk entering office. But one of the things that Polk wants to do is acquire California. Now, you're probably going to have to connect on the test the desire to acquire California with the Mexican War. Ooh. Right? Now, does Polk provoke a war in order to acquire California? I mean, we know that his diplomatic effort to acquire California fails, that he attempts diplomatically to acquire California, sends an envoy, McMurtry, to California, tries to purchase, not to California, to Mexico, to try to purchase California, is unsuccessful. When he cannot acquire California, I should turn the page here, because I don't even know what I'm talking about here. I mean, when he attempts to acquire California, see Wendell Phillips, I saw his name there, Aroostook War, I saw their name there. When he attempts to acquire California,